The Samurai Jack build. No focus, no tricks, just pure precision, timing, and carnage. If you ever wanted to embody what it truly feels like to be a samurai, this one is for you. Calm, deadly, and relentless. So, without further ado, let's dive in and get into the nitty gritty. What is up, YouTube? This is Into the Wicked, and today we're diving into my Samurai Jack build for No Rest for the Wicked, the Breach Refined. The setup is all about discipline and precision, rewarding mastery and timing while punishing mistakes. It's a clean, efficient build built for players who love control, precision, and that feeling of total focus in combat. So, before we dive into the breakdown, I'll be going further in depth later in this video with the weapon, shield, and armor, but first I want to lay the foundation so you know how every piece connects. So furthermore, this build runs off a simple but powerful foundation. Minimalism done right. Here's the setup. The weapon of choice is going to be the Wind of Death. One-handed Wakizashi. Offhand, we're going to be rocking the Falstead's Barricade. Armor mix, it is a mix, Mudstalker and dark leather pieces. The primary rune and the only rune attack we will be using is Jump Cut. We will be using utility runes as well for physical damage boosting and sustaining. I also make use of certain utility recipes to amplify physical damage and boost stamina recovery mid-combat, keeping things fast and fluid. But for the most part of this build, it's no focus, no multi-room span, just a clean setup that rewards awareness and control. So this is the kind of build that thrives on simplicity. Everything you equip serves a purpose: offense, sustain, or survival. Also, a note, when I started working on this, I wanted to step away from the usual rune heavy playstyle and challenge myself to create something that didn't rely on spamming runes. I wanted to build that focused purely on hand-to-hand combat, something that felt raw, skill-based, and true to that samurai mentality. And that is exactly why I chose the Wind of Death as the centerpiece for this build. It's the build's entire identity: sleek, unforgiving, and brutally efficient. Here's why it works so well. Plus 60% damage based on missing health, minus 30% dodge stamina cost, and lose 5% health on damage dealt. And for this build, we are going to be rocking pure physical damage as our gem. No elemental effects, no frost, no fire, just the death of 1,000 cuts mentality. Every swing matters, every slash bleeds the enemy down bit by bit until there's nothing left. And to me, that 5% health on damage dealt, I honestly see it as a plus more than a negative. It's this weapon's core signature edge, and to keep things authentic to the samurai fantasy, I only use one rune attack: Jump Cut. No spam, no filler, just one precise cut to close the gap, reposition, or finish an enemy in style. That being said, let's talk about my favorite part of this build, which is the offhand shield, Falstead's Barricade. A safe yet deadly shield, the Falstead's Barricade is your lifeline and offensive tool all in one. It's indestructible, blocks nearly every attack, and returns 25% of block damage back to enemies. Also, I slapped on there a 5% lifesteal gem, as well as another enchantment that you get is focus gain on block. This shield quite literally protected me from almost everything in this game. From range attacks to brutal boss swings, it held its ground through it all. Whenever I needed to regain my rhythm mid-fight, I initiated a block sequence to reset my timing and control the pace again. I primarily used it for blocking, not pairing. It was more as a safety blanket, something I can rely on when the pressure ramps up. You can literally hold your ground against most enemies and that shield will do damage for you. I only parry enemies with big, predictable swings. Otherwise, blocking keeps the rhythm consistent and lets you stay in control. And honestly, this thing, it's the Echo Knight's kryptonite. The boss doesn't stand a chance once you learn how to time your blocks and let the reflected damage chew him up. Now, let's dive into the armor. I briefly said that this is a mix. I said this because the only armor piece that is going to be unrelated to leather is going to be the helmet, which is the Black Spark helmet. This piece kicks things off with plus 10% healing, which immediately helps offset the Wind of Death's health drain. It reduces focus cost by 20% at low health and decreases damage taken by up to 10, both scaling with durability. You also get a 10% weight reduction, which makes this build feel surprisingly nimble for how heavy it is. The only downside, focus gain drops by 32%, but since this build isn't rune dependent, that was a trade-off I can easily live with. This helmet basically fuels a sustain and defense loop. It keeps you steady under pressure. Now the chest piece, I'm rocking the Mudstalker's jerkin. I will say this right now, the only reason why I rocked this piece other than filling it with the dark leather set was because I couldn't get the plague chest piece for the life of me. Every time I tried, I would just get magic, and I got so irritated after about the 30th time that it's one of those things where it's like the RNG gods just dropped this on my lap, and lo and behold, it was plague. So without further ado, the Mudstalker's jerkin. Every time you take damage, you deal 15% damage back, and that is huge in close fights. And to that 20% stamina recovery boost and 30% reduced damage at low health, you got that perfect mix of offense and sustain. It's indestructible, so it's not going anywhere. It's a permanent piece that ties your whole rhythm together. I love this one because it rewards that aggression when you take a hit and then immediately turn it into an opportunity. But speaking of the dark leather set, we are moving forward to our next piece, the dark leather gloves. Here is where we add even more power to your strikes. They boost physical damage by 15 and give 10% health on kill, so once you get rolling, you just don't stop. They also offset some of that focus loss from that helmet with 15% focus gain increase, and like the rest of the set, they're indestructible. Those gloves make your sword play feel so clean, every slash feels snappy, and every kill refuels your next fight. And lastly, for that gem slot, we slapped on another healing increase by 10%. And now for our final piece, our leg piece, we're rocking dark leather breeches. These are all about momentum. After dodging, you gain 15% damage for 10 seconds, which means every perfect iframe turns into an offensive weapon, which I love. You get an extra focus gain, healing up to 15%, and even I slapped on poise defense +3 so you don't flinch as easily when trading hits and blocking. It's that balance between movement and punishment, dodge clean, strike hard, and stay mobile. All in all, these pieces together create that loop of healing gems counter the sword's health loss. Your low health bonuses kick in when the fight gets tight, and the stamina recovery plus poise keeps your flow uninterrupted. Focus remains balanced, you're not losing much, and what you do lose doesn't matter since you're relying on technique. And the best part is the rings. We are going to be running 3 key pieces here, and when combined, they define how you flow in combat. Starting with the Plague Ring. This one boosts lifesteal by 20% at low health, but it comes at the cost of reducing your max health by 20. It's a bold trade-off, but perfect for this glass samurai mindset. You get rewarded for staying calm and lethal under pressure. Once your health dips, the lifesteal effect goes crazy, letting you recover mid-fight while maintaining your offensive flow. Next, Ring of Broken Promises, and this one is for the risk takers. It boosts damage dealt by 20%, but also increases damage taken by 20. Now, for this, I personally didn't feel the damage taken increased by 20. I know it literally doubles down on your high risk, high reward playstyle, but it fit perfectly for me. It was about precision, still having that confidence and trusting your movement and timing to make that trade-off worth it. And lastly, the Willow Cap ring. This ring itself made this build really come together because the movement set on the Wind of Death was a little bit slow. I was swapping rings a couple times and I still felt like after that first initial melee animation, I kept getting stuck or caught. And this one right here was the difference between catching a dodge window or taking a fatal hit. It smoothed out the movement, attack recovery, and just makes everything feel more fluid. It was that subtle polish that gives this build its finishing touch. When all three rings are working together, it felt like a proper samurai duel. You're fast, you're dangerous, and you're surviving off razor thin margins. Everything hits harder, recovers faster, and flows smoother. And finally, the most underrated part of this build, we have the recipes. For starters, you'll want to use either the vegetable cake or shepherd's pie. Either is great, but both will give you a 10% damage boost for 180 seconds while restoring a solid chunk of health instantly. The only difference, of course, is the restoration of health between the two. So whichever one you got crafted works just fine. What really matters is that 10% damage bonus. That's your foundation before any major fight. But this is where things really stack. I combine that food buff with the damage surge rune, which boosts your attack by 30% for 120 seconds. When you use both together, you're walking into fights with roughly a 40% increase in total attack power, all while topping off your health. It's the perfect pre-fight ritual, buff, surge, and strike. Lastly, we got our fish salad, which restores 150 health and 50 focus. It's your utility piece for recovery mid-combat when you need to keep your flow steady. But here's the trick. I also keep the channel rune equipped for moments when I'm completely out of focus. It acts as a manual reset, letting me convert small amount of that health into focus, which in turn allows me to activate damage surge if I'm out of focus before a big boss fight. It's a smooth way to maintain that tempo without breaking your rhythm. And finally, the Hardy Harvest Rag Out. That one restores 200 health and increases stamina by 15. That's essentially more of like a healing type food recipe for you. Nothing too special. Aside with increases stamina by 15 for a full minute. All of these stack perfectly together. Your food fuels the body, your runes fuel the blade, and together they keep the fight balanced between control and chaos. Now, I'm going to end with this. This build is not a beginner's build. It's definitely an intermediate to advanced type build. The playstyle is 95% of your time should be spent meleeing, with the remaining 5 is going to be dedicated to either jump cut and your healing rune or damage runes. You rely on positioning, spacing, and timing to win fights, not ability cooldowns. When things get chaotic, use Falstead's Barricade to block, reset, and breathe. Then step back in with precision, one slash at a time. It's a dance of control and aggression. So that's it for the build. I hope you guys enjoyed. This has been Into the Wicked. Again, if you enjoyed the breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more dev updates, guides, and gameplay for No Rest for the Wicked. Thanks for watching. I will definitely see you in the next one. Peace.